Popular DJ and presenter DJ Warras, Warrick Stock, has passed away at the age of 40. The former Gaga CFM presenter was shot dead in the Joburg CBD yesterday. It's believed he was inspecting hijacked buildings, which were guarded by his private security company. Joburg Transport MMC, that's Kenny Kunene, says there must be a firm commitment to cleaning up the Joburg CBD, including reclaiming illegally occupied buildings. Questions have been asked about the safety of the Joburg CBD, and Joburg Human Settlements MMC Mlungisi Mabaso now joins us to talk about this and a little bit more. Mabaso, thank you so much for the time. Appreciate it as well, MMC. It's a sad saga in its own. And then, unfortunately, we add on to it this issue around these buildings. Are you able at all to confirm whether DJ Warras, Warrick Stock, was officially involved in building inspections and evictions of any kind in the Joburg CBD at the time of his death? Good morning.
Good morning, Pagatwayo, and good morning to our viewers. We have not yet confirmed. I'm still waiting for the police to give a full report of what had transpired. Yesterday, after the incident, I was also in contact with our law enforcement just to ascertain of what could have happened and what could have led to the killing of one of the prominent leaders of our society. And unfortunately, it's still too early to tell, and we are still waiting for the police to advise us of what transpired. But what we had appreciated is that they indicated that there is a lead, there is a footage that they will be using, to try and crack this case. So we are waiting for the full briefing from our authorities, and I think we'll then be in a position then to make further comment on what could have led to the attack of DJ Waras.
All right. Thank you so much for that. MMC, overall, we do know that there's a concern around the Joburg CBD, particularly with unclaimed buildings. You've heard from the Transport MMC, Kenny Kunene, speaking about how we need to reclaim them. We need to be a little bit stronger with regards to that. What is being done in that regard? I mean, not so long ago, there were buildings that went on fire. There are many that could perhaps involve drugs, etc. What is your sense on where things lie? How do we fix it?
Well, I think we need to appreciate that we are dealing with a lot in the inner city, and I can tell you, the space is volatile. We are dealing with a syndicate here that is well resourced, that has capacity, and people that have been operating freely in the space. And confronting them, it's a bit difficult, especially when you do not have sufficient protection around you. For us to really crack down, these illegal operations in the inner city, we do really require, resources from our crime intelligence so that they are able to assist us to identify these criminals, because what we've been confronting in the inner city is the runners of faceless, bosses that we do not know, people that do not come out even when you get into these spaces. And it's a big problem for us because you've got quite a number of properties that are privately owned in the inner city which are hijacked. You've got properties that are owned by the city of Johannesburg, properties that are owned by other spheres of government, that are hijacked, that are dilapidated, and there are a lot of criminal activities that are happening in these properties. I mean, there are drugs operations that are happening in these buildings. There are people who have hijacked these buildings, they have occupied them. They are utilizing municipal services without paying to government. They are not paying for their rate and taxes. And when you confront them, they retaliate, in a very bad way. And that's why when you get into the space, you need to make sure that you've got sufficient protection around you. But the reality is that, up until crime intelligence assists us in cracking down these criminal activities that are happening in the inner city, we'll be chasing the tail. And we do really need, to access those resources from our crime intelligence, because we need to know who are these people that are operating in the inner city so that we are able to deal with them.
So, MMC, earlier on in that response, you said that you're dealing with a syndicate here. Is that a confirmation that this really is a syndicate? Are you aware of who the syndicate is, where they run from, operations, etc.? I know you've spoken about more policing resources. Does that also mean you're in conversations with the police minister or the police within the area and security with regards to ensuring that something actually happens at this stage?
Well, part of the request we submitted to the president when he visited us in the city of Johannesburg was the resources around dealing with crime in the inner city. Yes, we do deploy our JMPD officials there, but it's not sufficient. We really do need, assistance from the provincial and the national government, and we raised that with the president and the premier. Even the Minister of Home Affairs, we do require resources from them, because we've got a lot of undocumented foreign nationals that we cannot account for. We've got foreign nationals that are part of these syndicates that are operating in these buildings, who also have hijacked some of the buildings in the inner city. I can tell you, our group forensic investigation unit are investigating quite a lot of cases around the hijacking of properties. There are a lot of privately owned buildings that have been hijacked, and their owners are unable to gain access into these properties. And that's why we really require, the assistance and the interventions from the law enforcement agency, especially from the province and the national government, so that we are able to deal with these criminals. I mean, they are highly resourced, that I can tell you for sure. It's not easy to deal with them. And that's why every time when we want to get into the inner city, we properly plan, we get everyone involved. Even when we conduct operations, when we want to do evictions, we make sure that we bring all our resources within the law enforcement agencies so that we are able to respond, because we know for a fact that we are dealing with people who are highly resourced, people who've been operating in the space freely for a very long time, and now they think they are owning that space. And if you get into the space and attempt to confront them, then they retaliate in a very bad way. And that's why we need to make sure that we mobilize all the resources so that we are able to deal with them, because it's a group of people, that they know exactly what they are doing. And if you want to deal with them, you need to make sure that you properly plan your operations and that you mobilize your resources so that you are able to confront them. Because every time when you get into the space, we only confront the runners, and these people are not there, to confront us.
I'm sorry, I'm going to interject just out of the interest of time. I still have a few questions that I'd like to add as well. And I think that point around them being wild resources fully taken on. But is it time then to review your policies around evictions, around all these unclaimed buildings? And is it time now to be a little bit more strict and stringent to ensure that we don't have these buildings in the inner city, and where people are living is a lot safer?
Yes, I agree with that, because that process has started. The national government is in the process of reviewing the PIA Act, the eviction process, how the alternative accommodation should be provided. Even in the city, there is a policy that we have developed around the provision of temporary accommodation, so that we are able to deal with all these elements in the inner city. Because every time when we want to evacuate or evict the building, we are compelled to provide alternative accommodation, even to people that really do not deserve to be provided with alternative accommodation. So those processes of policy review, they are going to assist us to deal with such elements. And we are waiting for the national government to finalize its processes on the review on the PIA Act, so that we are able to deal with these things, because that's what makes it difficult for us to evict. That's what makes it difficult for us to evacuate some of these properties, is because there is a need for us to review some of the policies and some of the guidelines so that we are able to deal with these matters. But another factor that we have not really addressed as government, particularly in the city of Johannesburg, is the involvement of certain NGOs that always tend to context the operations that we conduct. I mean, 3 days ago, I conducted an operation in one of the properties in Tarfantein where they are operating freely. They are selling drugs there. But Seri attempted to stop my operation, citing that there's a court order that prohibits government from conducting operations in that building. But that in that space, you know, there are drugs operations that are happening. Children are exposed to that operations, and we've got a responsibility to protect them. But it's difficult because some of the NGOs, they tend to take us to court when we do these things, and that's why we need to review our policies so that we make sure that our residents are protected, so that it also empowers government to run its operation without any hindrance.
Are there accountability mechanisms that exist when private security companies are tasked with what is clearly now a sensitive operation in whether guarding or evicting?
No, the collaboration with the police, your JMPD and yourselves, becomes imperative in that regard, because even when private security is deployed, but you still need a backup from the law enforcement agencies, so that as and when you require their interventions, at least they are there to assist you. You know, we work with the private security companies, in our operations, and we also rely on them, in protecting some of our properties, even as Department of Human Settlements. But we always involve the police, so that as and when they are required to respond and intervene, at least it's easier to get them on board so that they are able to assist.
MMC, we actually are running a poll question this morning on the show to our audience that is watching, and we're asking them what is the most effective way to end the hijacked buildings saga in the CBD. And the 3 options we gave them there are strong policing, reclaiming those buildings, and harsher penalties. 78% of the people who have voted thus far since the start of the show have said that reclaiming those buildings is the key to all of this. I don't know if you have any thoughts with regards to that. And then just in my final question alongside that, the long-term housing solution that should be pursued at this point, what is that for all those in the Johannesburg CBD?
Well, I concur with our residents. We need to reclaim these buildings, convert inner city into a construction site, push criminality out of the inner city, make sure that our law enforcement agencies work with us on the ground. They are able to arrest these criminals. There is a program of reclaiming the buildings. I mean, we've done evacuation in the inner city. We are releasing some of these properties now to private developers. We've got 11 evacuation orders that we have obtained as the city. We are refurbishing some of the buildings now so that we are able to provide alternative accommodation upon evacuating residents out of these buildings, and we are repurposing those properties into a low-cost and affordable housing, so that we make it affordable for our residents to reside in the inner city. But part of that, we are trying to make sure that our residents reside in safe properties within the inner city. So the plan is there, and we are executing our plan. But the challenge that we are encountering is that we've got a lot of people that requires alternative accommodation, and we do not have sufficient properties that are ready to accommodate our residents. But we are continuing to roll out, our programs in terms of evacuating people out of the buildings into buildings that have been repurposed, and we are going to continue with that particular program.
Mlungisi Mabaso, Johannesburg Human Settlements, MMC, thank you so much for your time. I think hard questions, a need for some real action when it comes to this, and I think that's going to be very